Hello friends, welcome back to my channel, or welcome if you're new here. Today we are doing a massive book haul because I recently cleaned out my shelves and I've been reading a lot whilst not filming over the past year. My books are building up so bad that it's starting to become a problem, so they have to go today. So we're filming this video today so I can take them out of my home. I feel like that's enough of an intro. We can just go ahead and go for it. So I have I think over 30 books that I'm getting rid of. Maybe more. We'll count as we go, I guess. Let's get started. These are not organized by any genre. They're just organized by how I put them in the stack. So the first book I'm getting rid of is The Body in Question. I read half of this a long time ago. The writing style is kind of funky. I stopped reading it. I'm not gonna pick it back up again. It wasn't flattering. It was pretty mid. It's gonna go. Next is The Forest of Love. Oh my gosh, why are my fingers so weird? This is a poetry collection and I was really into poetry for a long time and I'm really not into poetry at all anymore. So this is also gonna go. Although this is a beautiful book and it's a first edition, but that is not gonna stop me. Next we have The Color Purple by Alice Walker. I read it, it was fine. I'm not gonna read it again, so it's gonna go. Emergency Contact by Mary H.K. Choi. I read this. It was not incredible. It was YA and it was a romance and I don't really remember anything at all about it other than that the main character, well, the guy main character worked in a bakery. He was really struggling financially. I don't remember. I don't know. I have no idea and I'm never gonna read it again. Is this an unpopular opinion? I don't know. A Wrinkle in Time. I've had this since I was probably 5 years old. I can remember it being on my bookshelf as far back as my memories go. I don't like this book. I read it once when I was in 5th grade and I didn't like it. And I read it again a year ago and I still didn't like it. And I don't understand what the hype is about. And I'm never ever gonna read this again. So it's going away. Next is The Vault. My mom got this at the thrift store maybe, and she said it was really good and she gave it to me to read. I'm sorry, Mom. I'm not gonna read it. It's going back. It's going back to the bookstore and it will find a home with someone who does want to read it, but that person is not me. Next is The Longest Ride by Nicholas Sparks. I don't know why I thought that I was gonna read this. I don't like Nicholas Sparks. I don't even really like adult romances, contemporary romance. I like rom-coms. I'm finding this out about myself. I do like rom-coms a lot. But contemporary romance or really touchy-feely romance, what Nicholas Sparks writes is not my vibe. And I've tried reading from Nicholas Sparks multiple times and I just don't get the hype. His movies are great. The adaptations, I love it. But the way that they're written, I don't like it. Now we have a nonfiction. The Catcher Was a Spy. This sounds so interesting and I would love to read this, but realistically there are so many more things that I would rather read first before this, and I'm probably just never gonna get to it, so it's going away. Next is Wildflower Hill. The rest of these I'm donating. This I think I'm gonna give to my mom because I think that she would like this. This was unflattering for me. I read it. It was fine. It was contemporary. I just don't like contemporary stories, or at least not any of the contemporaries that I've read I've been a fan of. So this is going to my mom and maybe she will like it. Next, this is actually my most recent read, Darling Rose Gold. This is based on the Gypsy Rose story, but it's kind of like a what if in the future. And I really like this author. Her other book, what's it called? It's green and it has broken plates on it. This Might Hurt. I think that's what it's called. I really liked that book. So I gave this a try. It was a 2-star. It was not very thrilling to me. I just felt like there was not really any plot twist. Well, there was one that got me, but it wasn't anything to make me want to bump up my rating. That's where I'm at with this one. So it's going away. Back to my poetry situation. Like I said, when I was in high school, or maybe the end of middle school, my freshman year of high school, I was super into poetry. And one year for my birthday, I remember I had my grandma buy me a bunch of poetry books, and some of them actually were really good, and I thought that this one was like incredible. No, I'm sorry. If you are a freshman in high school or like in middle school and you feel like your heart is broken and like you want to read something to make you feel like you're not alone in the world, I would recommend this. Otherwise though, not my vibe. I just felt like the poetry was pretty elementary, although there are some very beautiful illustrations in here. Let me show you one that I like. There's some really beautiful illustrations. Next, I don't even know how I ended up with this book. This is a Twilight parody. I read it a long time ago. I don't know where it came from, how I acquired this. I can't imagine myself buying this. I definitely don't think I did. Maybe I got it at like a yard sale or something. I don't know. It was not very good. It made me giggle maybe like one time, but no, this does not get to take up shelf space. This has to go away. I have this memoir. I guarantee no one has ever heard of it. I remember reading like half of it and then it was just really boring, and I actually don't really know what the purpose of it was. I know that this girl grew up in like a small town and I don't know. Anyway, I don't care about this book and I'm gonna give it away. Okay, next up I have Whiter Than Snow by Sandra Dallas, and when I initially read this, Giselle, no, please stop. My cat is chewing on my plants. It's fine. I loved this book. I really did. And I thought it was great. So again, I'm gonna give it to my mom to read because I don't necessarily want it to go to the thrift store, but I am also not gonna read this anytime soon. So it's going to a home where it can be more loved than on my shelves, if that makes sense. But this is really good, and I actually would recommend it if you're looking for kind of like a riveting historical fiction. It's set in this like Colorado mining town, and there's an avalanche, and it hits a school right when the school gets out, and so it's really suspenseful, and you're reading to figure out if these kids are like alive or dead. You read from a bunch of different perspectives, and I just thought it was a great like depiction of what the reality of like small mining towns were like in 1920 in the West. So anyway, if you're looking for a historical fiction to like put you in the feels, I would recommend this. It's just not gonna stay with me anymore. Okay, next I have Bone Deep. This was another recent read of mine, and I, again, really liked this book, but not enough that I think I'm gonna wanna read it again in my life. Anyway, it's like a gothic fiction horror type of vibe. So these two women that are writers, well, one's a writer and she's like old and she's like crazy and she's retelling these like local fairy tales that are all pretty horrifying. There are a lot of parallels going on with what's actually happening in real life and this story, and so the vibes are great. Like a rainy day, like scary fall book, this 100% would recommend. But like I said, as much as I did enjoy it, I'm not gonna read it again. This one I had to do some thinking about. The Handmaid's Tale. I like this book, and there's so much to take away from this. I read it twice now. I don't see myself, now that I'm like out of school and I'm like living my best life out here, I don't see myself reading this again because I don't feel like I'm in that literary space anymore where I have to be reading like critically acclaimed books, because now I can just read whatever the heck I want. Handmaid's Tale is going away. This book is a middle grade novel, and it has some really cute illustrations, and it's cute. It's just a cute little story, but obviously it's not meant for me. I'm not the intended audience, and while it's cute to read once, I would never read this again. This has some cute little illustrations in it, and that's fun, but otherwise I'm never going to think about this probably ever again in my life. Okay, next I have The Dilemma by B.A. Paris. This was a good thriller. It's pretty different than what B.A. Paris typically writes, so there wasn't any like huge plot twists, but there was just a lot of doubt and a lot of situations in here that keep you guessing on what's going on. It's hard to talk about without spoiling anything because there's no like big twist or mystery that you're trying to solve. It's more just like about the vibes and the like doubt that the story puts in your mind. That said, I don't think there were enough twists or reveals in here for me to want to read it again, because I think I have a pretty good like memory of what happens in this story that I don't imagine myself forgetting. So this one is going away. I don't know if I should be like telling you guys what these are about or not. A lot of them I like don't really remember the plot of, or I don't want to spoil anything. Maybe I'll like try to be a little bit better. Hi. Maybe I'll try to be a little bit better about saying what these stories are about. But that said, I cannot tell you what this is about because I have not read it and I'm not going to read it. Again, I don't remember buying this, reading this. This doesn't ever sound like something that I would read. I don't know. See, I just have no idea. So, and I have no desire to read this, so I'm giving it away. Don't worry, I still have a whole nother giant bag of books. Okay, The Girl on the Train by Paula Hawkins. When I first read this, this was one of the first thrillers I read after I took a break from reading for like a pretty long time. So at that point in time, I wasn't sick and tired of the drunk woman narrator that has an unreliable memory and it keeps you guessing. Like, that is such a tired trope, okay? I'm so sick of the alcoholic woman being like a plot device because it's just annoying, and it's done in every book that was written from like 2010 to 2015, I swear. And so while I really enjoyed this the first time I read through it, I think if I read it now, I would be so hung up on the fact that the narrator is just such a plot device and doesn't really feel like a real character that I wouldn't be able to even focus on any enjoyment at all. So I'm never going to read this again. I can guarantee that. And I'm letting go. It's time to move on. Okay, then we have The Wife by Alifair Burke. I actually remember really enjoying this, although I don't remember a lot of the specifics of it. I'm gonna have to read the first page so I can tell you about it. Okay, I totally remember now. So this woman is kind of like hiding a secret, but you don't know what it is. And her husband has some allegations made against him. They kind of put her in the spotlight, and she doesn't know who to believe, who to trust. It's kind of just a classic domestic thriller, but it had been probably about a year since I'd read a domestic thriller when I read this one, so it was kind of nice. It was just kind of fun, but not something that I would want to pick up again. Obviously, since I didn't remember the plot, it didn't stick out. Okay, next I have a series of books. Well, it's a duology, The Kite Runner and A Thousand Splendid Suns. I read these in high school, and I loved them. And I read them again my sophomore year of college, I think, and I still loved them. But I think I've kind of outgrown them now, and I don't see myself reading these again. And while I think that these are beautifully written and you should 100% read them if you have not, since these are such popular books, I'm sure that they can find a home with someone who hasn't read them yet that will treasure them and love them more than I do. Next, we have A Homeless Man's Burden. My grandma gave this to me. Is it a true story? I feel like it is. Yes, it's a shocking, true, cold case. That's what the blurb on it. That's what this blurb says. My grandma gave this to me because she knows that I like thrillers and crime books. But please stop that. Anyway, I don't like true crime books. So while I appreciate her thinking of me, I am never gonna read this either. And it's so hard for me to give away books that I haven't read, but I'm realizing that I want my shelves to be a curation of everything I love. And if I have these books sitting on my shelves that I'm not excited to read, then that is like not a reflection of me, if that makes sense. So like that is not helping me in any way to reach that goal if I don't want to read the books, because then I'll just never pick them up. And it's better that they're in someone else's hands that can love them than if they stay in my hands and just never get read. You know what I mean? I have another B.A. Paris, Bring Me Back. I knew the plot twist going into this. I accidentally spoiled it for myself. So there was no twist that surprised me. I was kind of thinking, even if I didn't know how this ended, would I have enjoyed it any more? I'm not sure. I think I struggle a little bit with B.A. Paris because something about the twist always feels kind of cheap to me. And maybe that's just a personal preference, I don't know. But this was not my vibe. And it's also a mass market paperback, which like I have nothing against that, but it's not something that I want on my shelves. It's not aesthetically pleasing. And I know that is so like consumerist of me to say, but I didn't love it either. So it's just like a double whammy of things that I don't enjoy. Okay, next I actually have a book that I had to read for school. The Boy Who Was Raised as a Dog. This is like an anthology written by a child abuse therapist, and it's very sad. And I don't want to go into social work, but I did take a class on social work just to like fill a credit. And it was interesting, don't get me wrong. I now know a lot about the child welfare system and the whole process and the terrible range of deficits that abuse can have on children, but I never want to ever see this book again in my life because it was so depressing and so sad. Hopefully someone else needs this. Obviously, if I take it to the bookstore and someone else goes to my school and takes that class, they're gonna need this. So it's on its way out, and I hope to God I never see it again. I have Lock and Key by Sarah Dessen. I don't like Sarah Dessen's books. They just feel so like, the writing style feels so elementary to me, and I'm not sure what exactly drives me to feel that way, but I'm not a huge fan. I've read a couple books from her now. I don't even remember what this is about. I've had this for a long time. There's no reason for this to take up any space on my shelf. I don't care about this book. Next, I have The Lifeboat Clique. I have tried to start this a couple times, and something about it is just not working for me. This is a YA thriller. I think it's pretty old. Okay, 2016. Well, still, it's almost a decade old, and it's just really, it's not clicking for me. Haha, did you get my pun? Okay. Anyway, like I said, I've tried to start reading this a couple of times now. It's just not working out for me, and it's just struggling to make me care about what's happening. So it's gonna go. This is another one that I'm not sure if it's an unpopular opinion or not. I usually love super weird books with like ambiguous endings. This book was strange, that's for sure. And I usually love that. This book is kind of marketed as a thriller. It's not that. I would say it's almost like speculative horror. It just makes you very uncomfortable, but you don't really know why you're uncomfortable. And I wouldn't say it necessarily made me feel scared at all, but it did make me feel just uneasy while I was reading it. It's very odd. And like I said, I usually love books like that. This was not that for me. I felt like there was a whole lot of nothing going on in the plot. And while I think that can be a really interesting tactic used in a horror book or in a speculative book to make you kind of question what's going on, it doesn't work when you never get like an understanding of the nothing going on at all. Like there's just no explanation. And that's kind of what happens in this book. So this is going away. Next is The Flat Share. Like I said, I do like rom-coms. I think that they're fun, and I like reading rom-coms, and some of my favorite reads of this year and last year were rom-coms. And I've heard so many positive things about Beth O'Leary, especially this book. I read it over Christmas break. It did make me laugh out loud a couple of times, but it was overall just kind of strange. I felt like our main character was extremely annoying. It just kind of wasn't my vibe. Like, I just feel like these characters weren't fully fleshed out, if you know what I mean. Both of them were funny. There was lots of dialogue in here that made me smile or made me laugh a couple of times. But I kind of felt like the story had a lot of extra detail in it that I didn't need and was bouncing around all over the place, kind of too much for me. And also, I didn't enjoy the way that the third act conflict was done in here. I don't necessarily have anything against a third act conflict. I think a lot of times it gets fleshed out in too dramatic a fashion, and I kind of felt like that was what happened in here. And so I ended up just not really liking it by the end. I really thought maybe it was gonna bump my rating up a star, but it ended up like ruining it for me. So I don't know, if you like a dramatic third act conflict, I think this would be good for you. Okay, we have another mass market paperback, Her Pretty Face by Robin Harding. I read a couple Robin Hardings last year, and I think that this is an author that I'm just gonna like not read from again. I don't hate her books, but I just don't think, or is this a man? I don't know. I don't hate their books, but none of them are very enthusing to me. I felt like it was kind of predictable. Both of the books that I read from Robin Harding were kind of just very middle of the road for me. They didn't have anything super special going on. And as I read more and more thrillers, I feel like I'm getting harder and harder to impress with the quality of a thriller. So I need it to do something like special and entertaining for me to really love it. And this did not deliver. I'm starting to get very uncomfortable sitting on the floor. We're almost done though. Okay. Next I have People Like Her by Ellery Lloyd. This is another thriller that I was really excited to read. I don't even necessarily remember what made this so bad for me. I think I left a Goodreads review. I'm gonna go get my phone and I'm gonna see what I wrote. Okay, well, I hyped it up for nothing. I did not leave a Goodreads review. Like I said, I don't really remember what made this not awesome for me. I just remember that it was not awesome for me. I felt like the influencer mom trope was done really well in this book, but I feel like everything else was not done really well in this book. Although I do remember the end plot twist being kind of surprising to me, but I think it was because we didn't even like have the clues to actually figure it out till everything was handed to us. Like, I just don't really know what to say about this. I don't remember anything about it, and that's like what I'm saying for most of the books in this video. But honestly, if I'm not remembering it, it wasn't that good, so it's going away. Okay. I probably should have said this one right after The Handmaid's Tale, but it was in the bottom of my bag. Did we need this sequel? I thought we did, and then I read it and I was like, never mind, we actually don't. So anyway, this is hardcover too, although I did get it at the place where books are really cheap that's not the thrift store. Half price books, but it's not that. Oh my god, I don't know. I have no idea. Anyway, I didn't pay full price for this, but I did pay more than I normally would for this, and I'm never gonna read it again, and I don't actually think that it was necessary or contributed anything to the series. Oh my god, it's the last one. Okay, this one's easy because this is one of my favorite books, but I have 2 copies of it, so this one is going away. Hi, Tinky. You want to say hi? You say hi? Yeah. Anyway, this is one of my favorite books. Shay Earnshaw is one of my favorite authors. She writes this really atmospheric, like light fantasy. So I would highly recommend that you check it out if you're looking for like a magical kind of cult vibe. I don't think that's a spoiler. I think you know that it's a cult. Yeah. If you like kind of a fantasy cult story, this is not like a normal like thriller cult story. It does have a mystery in it, but it is really magical, and there are like some magical vibes, magical elements happening in here. So really great speculative mood. And I would highly recommend that you check this out and any other works by this author because she is a great writer and she writes beautiful settings. So that's it. Let's figure out how many we had. 34 books that are going away today, and I'm so excited to clean them out of my house. I don't have anything else to say, so we're gonna be done now. Thanks for watching. Bye!